Every evening the books were open, but the mind somewhere else entirely. His father had plans, big ones, and a timeline to match. You need to study harder. Top grades don't come from wishing. The son nodded, as he always did. He studied late, he studied long. But pressure without purpose drains faster than it builds. The results came back. Not what his father hoped, not what he hoped either. Dinner that night was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels louder than shouting. But for the first time, the father paused. Was he helping or just hurting? The son didn't know how to say what he felt, so he said nothing at all. That night, the father picked up something he hadn't in years, a book. Not for his son, for himself. He read about motivation, about how fear shuts the brain down, and how safety opens it. A student who studies out of fear remembers less, performs worse, gives up sooner. He stood at the doorway and watched his son sleep, and for the first time, he felt it. He had been the pressure, not the support. The next morning, the son walked to school carrying the same weight he always did. Except now it lived inside him, not in his bag. But his father had made a decision. Today would be different. How are you actually doing? The son blinked. Nobody had asked him that in a long time. He didn't know where to start. So he started small. I don't understand the material, and I'm scared to say I don't. The father didn't jump in with solutions. He just said, "Thank you for telling me that." Something loosened inside him, not fixed, but loosened. That was enough for now. That evening, the father didn't write a list of demands. He wrote a plan, one built around his son, not his own expectations. What subjects feel hardest? He asked. Let's start there. Not where I think you should start. For the first time, the plan felt like his, not something imposed, something chosen. He sat down that evening and studied, not because he had to, because he wanted to see what happened if he did. His father saw him, and for once, walked away. No comments, no corrections, just trust. On weekends, they began studying together, the father explaining what he knew, not as a judge, but as a guide. Something was clicking. Not all at once, but piece by piece, the fog was lifting. They started talking differently. About school, about life, about what the son actually wanted for his future. He had never been asked what he wanted. Now that he had been, he realized he had answers. At school, something had shifted. He started raising his hand, started asking questions he used to swallow. He started using new methods. Active recall, spaced repetition. Not because his father told him to, because he discovered they worked. The father had learned the hardest lesson of parenting, how to step back without stepping away. One evening, the son showed his father his notes unprompted. The father leaned in, not to correct, but to admire. The next exam came. He walked in differently, sat down differently, breathed differently. He didn't know his result yet, but for the first time he felt like he had actually tried, truly tried, without fear. His father met him at the door. How did it go? 4 words, simple, warm, no conditions attached. The son smiled, not a performance, a real one. I think it went okay, Dad. Science tells us this. When students feel safe, supported, and seen, the brain shifts from survival mode into learning mode. The stress response, cortisol flooding the brain, literally blocks memory formation. Remove the fear and learning flows. The father had changed too. He started tracking not his son's grades, but his son's confidence, his curiosity, his effort. Their mornings changed. Less silence, more warmth. Something that had been missing for years was returning. The results came. Better. Much better. Not perfect, but real. He brought the paper home. His father held it for a long moment, then looked up. I'm proud of you. Not for this paper. For everything you did to get here. He pinned it next to his schedule, not as a trophy, as a reminder of what was possible when pressure became purpose. Every parent wants the best for their child, but wanting and knowing how. Those are two very different things. The best thing a parent can do is not push their child toward success, but make them feel safe enough to reach for it themselves. When children feel seen, not just graded, they begin to find their own reasons to grow. This is what support looks like. Not silence, not shouting, just showing up consistently with curiosity instead of control. He still had hard days. He still struggled. But now the struggle felt like climbing, not drowning. Good night. Good night, Dad. 3 words. But everything had changed inside them. Success in school doesn't begin at the desk. It begins with how safe a child feels at home. Build that, and everything else becomes possible.